Okay. Okay, let's call the meeting to order now, if we can.
Good. It's 6:34.
Okay. The first item, I sent out an agenda to everybody. Did you all receive it?
Yes.
Should have gone out last Thursday or something like that. It's a proposed agenda, and so the first thing to do would be to adopt that as the agenda for this meeting. Do I hear a motion to that effect? Or does anybody have any suggested changes?
I move that we accept the agenda as written.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Okay, Andrew, could you do the minutes of the last meeting? I did send them out to everybody, so I don't know if they need to be read in their entirety. Did everybody get the minutes that Andrew prepared from the previous meeting? Not the, I guess it's the June 3rd meeting? No,
July
I can't
19th.
hear you, Andrew. You're muted.
Yeah, it was July, and
July.
I'll have to look them up if
Okay.
you'd want. They were promulgated.
Right. Did everybody get them?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have some suggested changes?
Hello,
Hello?
this is Nancy Hillsbus in Fairmont. I got your memo, but I don't have a lot of time to follow or figure out the situation, but I do have something I want to bring up. So
Who
So
is- I'm sorry, Nancy? Is that-
yes,
Yeah, okay. And
am I
so-
on your air?
I can see you, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out where to put this for letting people in. Okay, what would you, is it something you'd like to add to the agenda or something?
Well, I don't know if you all have discussed the bill in the United States Senate called 1295.
No, we can put that in, you can raise that in new business when we get to it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if nobody has any objection to the minutes I sent out that Andrew prepared, I would move, I would,
I move
go ahead,
that we
Chris.
we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, so the minutes are adopted. Next item on the agenda is reports, a summary of the history that Mary Thorpe was going to do.
Thank you. I just wanted to refresh all of our thinking about the status of, or the what we've accomplished since the Affirmative Action Committee came into existence. So if you remember, in 1974, the Democratic Party created the Affirmative Action Committees in their plan, in their bylaws. And in March of this year in West Virginia, that Affirmative Action Committee, and hence the caucuses, we're now part of the West Virginia Democratic Party bylaws. So as you remember, May 3rd was when we began calling meetings to create the caucuses, followed 2 weeks later by nominating and electing our co-chairs for all of the 6 caucuses that were scheduled at that time. followed by the three caucuses that followed after our first affirmative action committee meeting on June 2nd. So we've been in existence since June 3rd, 2021, and we are now July, August. So we're a little bit more than 2 months into the affirmative action committee, and now all 9 of the caucuses with co-chairs. And so I wanted for us to be able to acknowledge everything we've accomplished so far. So this is our, I think 3rd or 4th meeting, the senior caucus. We've been working on surveys, sharing them with other people and gathering information, along with the survey and all of the other caucuses that are using the survey. We've had 2 of 3 listening tour sessions that the Affirmative Action Planning Committee has set up. There's a 3rd one this coming Friday at 6:30 that you're welcome to register for, to share the invitation to, and invite people to share with us any barriers that they've had to participating, any ideas that they have. It's an opening listening tour that the Affirmative Action Planning Committee is doing. We've also created the bylaw committee inside the Affirmative Action Committee to be working on that. Our intention is that both the Affirmative Action Plan and the bylaws for the Affirmative Action Committee are both complete as a first draft by the end of September. So that's a little bit of an update about the history and what we've accomplished so far. And I thank each one of you for participating at whatever level you are. Andrew for being the secretary here, Selena for being the parliamentarian, Bob and I for taking on the co-chair positions, and each one of you for anyone you've shared the survey with, anyone you've talked to about what we're doing here. So it's just a time that we can begin to acknowledge what has come into existence since the beginning of May. So thank each one of you. Is there anything anyone would like to add that I might have missed or that you want to specifically be acknowledged for? All right, thank you so much.
Betty, you had,
Did somebody say something?
somebody did, but let me ask one question before I get to you, Betty. There's somebody on the phone with phone number 304-642-5034, and I was just wondering who that is. If you could identify yourself. I'm sorry?
Yeah. I am Julia Elbin from Elkins, West Virginia, and tonight is the first time I have tuned in.
Okay. All right. You just showed up as a phone number, so we were wondering.
Thank you, Julia. Welcome.
And I wasn't connected, and I thank you, and I'm enjoying listening. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Betty, you have your hand up. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, in terms of the history and what you're planning, could you talk a little about the planning retreat and how that works?
Is that on our agenda, Bob?
It's not.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Yes, thanks, Betty. So Betty Rivard, in one of our very early meetings, recommended that the people in the co-chairs in the Affirmative Action Committee create a retreat where we could begin to learn, be led by someone whose profession it is to work with groups working together. And so Betty was generous in making that recommendation, and we thought it was a great idea. And so next Sunday, this coming Sunday, actually, it's August 22nd, we're going to be meeting with Leslie Stone from Stone Strategies. And it's going to be an open meeting. The time is from 3 until 7 o'clock on Sunday. And it's open to the public. You're welcome to come. And it will be a meeting where the Affirmative Action Committee is the primary people participating. We're going to be looking at creating a vision, a mission, work on some of the items that will go into the Affirmative Action Plan and the bylaws. And we're going to, at some point, and she'll have an idea closer to Sunday, we'll be doing a we'll be doing a breakout session where people from the caucuses can meet with the co-chairs and have input into that work that we're going to be doing.
And I would just tell everybody that once
Sure.
I receive the invitation, I'll send it out to the whole senior caucus so that everybody will have it. I don't know how far in advance, but if you want to, put that on your schedule, you'll have it at least ahead of time. Hopefully a day or two ahead of time.
Thank you, Bob.
Betty?
Go ahead, Betty.
Just a follow-up question. Is that now a two-step process?
No, well, it might be.
Yes.
I don't know. It probably
Yes.
will be because it's with the, if
So-
it's through the state Democratic Zoom, it will be.
Hold on just a minute, Bob. So I think what you're pointing to, Betty, is that originally we were going to meet for 6 hours. And so in working with Leslie Stone, we came up with a solution to do a 4-hour session on Sunday, the 22nd. And then, more than likely, we'll then follow up with a 2-hour session to see what we have left to accomplish. And it will be decided on Sunday when that time will be.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Betty. Thank you for your recommendation. Thank you for your connection with Leslie. And thank you for having this be part of what we're able to do in the Affirmative Action Committee.
Mary Ann Clater has her hand up.
I just had a quick question. Are we allowed to send, I don't know, like a proxy or something, since, there's 3 of us that aren't able to attend?
Marianne, why don't we talk about that offline, how that could work, okay?
I just wanted to think about who, I could find that would be available. That's why.
Okay, let's see how we could do that. Maybe somebody on your caucus would stand in for you. But anyway, let's talk about it. Good question. Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say I muted our person on the phone, so she'll have to unmute herself if she wants to add anything. I think there was an echo coming from it.
Bob, I'm not sure if you mute her that she'll be able to unmute herself. Why don't you mute?
Well, it says ask to unmute that's what my option is now.
Okay. Does she know how to do that?
I don't know. Oops.
So, okay.
Maybe she'll call back. But ask to unmute is the only option I have for some reason.
Well, if you were to unmute her and then she could push *6 or *9, I'm not sure which it is to mute. We'll have to find that out.
I think it's
then
*6.
She'd have access to it herself again. We'll see if she comes back. All right, I'm complete then.
Okay. The next category we have is unfinished business. We were going to do a little bit of a listening tour here tonight for people who haven't been to any of the listening tours and I'm not sure how you were doing that in the listening tours because I only got on part of the time on one of them so far. Mary?
So what Rosemary did was began to open the conversation to anybody who was on the call to share about any specific stories or specific incidences that they had as they were running up against barriers to their own participation in the party. And I'm just going to share one as an example that one of the people the other day was from the Eastern Panhandle, and they had a group. There were several county executive committees or women's groups, I think, that didn't have enough people to actually be a recognized group by the Federation, Democratic Federation of Women. So they began working together to create a super group where they could work together and raise money together and like that. And they wrote a couple of times to ask for support in doing that, and they weren't responded to. She can tell the story obviously better than I can, but you can begin to see that they ended up not being able to work together because they didn't have the support of the Democratic Party that they were looking for. And if you want to know the details of that, you're welcome to get the listening tour recording. You might even be interested in other things that people said. So, you know, I don't know whether there's anybody here that has anything that they want to say or knows people that have run into barriers of participation. And then we didn't have any interaction with anyone. We just listened to what they had to say. It gets documented on the recording and in the minutes, so that it's part of our gathering information for the Affirmative Action Committee to use for their plan.
And probably by tomorrow, I'll have the recording of this up on the Senior Caucus YouTube channel that I sent you a link to last week. Is there anybody here? Joe?
I have a question. Is this trying to reach out to others? Has anybody had any experience of bringing the existence of the caucuses and their role into their county Democratic Committee meetings? And if so, how have they gone about it and how has it been received?
I have, and I have tried to bring it into both Jefferson and Berkeley County, and basically nobody's interested at all. But I'm not going to give up. I have received like a blank wall. A few people have told me, that's great, that's wonderful, it's great that you're doing those things. But basically, the leadership really is not interested.
Is there a reason they're not interested? Is it apathy, or is it just something extra they have to do that they don't want to do, or is it
I
against
haven't
it?
really had an opportunity to explore that yet,
Okay.
so I'm not sure.
And Joe, I guess a little bit I brought it into the Raleigh County Democratic Executive Committee that you were at, but I didn't talk much, and so I should talk more about it with them. Nancy, you have your hand up.
Well, I think I should say from Marion County that there haven't been very many meetings of any kind for at least a couple of years. And I think most of us here probably would know why that would be. And I'm here trying to understand a little more about what you all understand. But the Democratic Party in Marion County at this point is pretty much a club of friends that don't call each other to account very much. And so people who have objected to one thing or another don't tend to know when anything is being discussed. I guess I'll leave it at that for the moment.
So is that essentially a problem of getting notice of what's going on?
I don't think so. We used to get memos about a meeting, but unless somebody dropped me from the list without my knowing about it and dropped everyone I know from the list, I don't know. I just think there haven't been meetings. So I just think I should tell you that, that a lot of people think that there haven't been meetings in our county. And if there was a meeting, they didn't know about it, kind of thing.
Thanks, Nancy. Chris?
I would like to just comment briefly on Mary's history. I don't think that was, we need to say more about that. We started on May 3rd, I think it was, with 0. I mean, nothing was here. And today we have caucuses established, we have affirmative action committees, we have operations underway, we have, I mean, I can't believe it. I've never seen the Democratic Party do things like this in the whole, 2 decades I've been here. I am very, very, very impressed and very optimistic that we are going to really make a dent in the West Virginia Democratic Party and that we're doing great things. And what we've been able to accomplish in just 2.5 months, or how many it's been, has been absolutely phenomenal.
Selena, you're next, I think.
Thank you, Chris.
I just wanted to, first I just wanted to recognize I'm an ally, not a member of this particular caucus. But I did want to speak to what Ms. Hilbeth said, if it's okay. One of the things that, when I say we, I'm talking sort of like about the grassroots reformers and the work that we've tried to do over the last 2 years, of which, Mary Thorpe and Bob Baker, Dan and Linda Dull, Dr. Golden, Andrew, Chris, and Pam. I think those are, all people who were, Jean, Suzanne Hornsby. Those were all people who were at some point grassroots reformers and were involved in learning that we in West Virginia, Democrats in West Virginia, for the most part, one, did not know what our rights were as Democrats, and 2, did not demand that we, that our rights were heard. And so somebody was talking about participation and rules earlier. I can't remember who that was, but the fact of the matter is that all Democrats have a right to full participation in all party affairs at all levels. And you can't have full participation if you don't know when meetings are, or you don't know, you have to have information. And and also, we learned that, asking sometimes doesn't get us what we want, but if you file a grievance or a challenge, then that moves us closer. And so we've done a series of that. And so at this point, we have been able to get some, I'm not going to say they're perfect by any means, but some very good rules in place that are now in the bylaws regarding, notice and a description of full participation in Democratic Party affairs. And the more people that know that and bring that to their county committees or states committees or whatever organizations, and make sure that people are aware of it. And I'll be honest, I think that there are many people who are in charge that don't know the rules. And so making sure that we do, education and that we know the rules and we know our rights. And then also, if necessary, writing whatever challenge or grievance to hold people accountable. We're hoping that, my hope is that all of us can begin working together and recognizing the rules and really moving this party forward. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that we do have rules, we do have rights, and I encourage people to act on those. Thank you.
Nancy, your hand's still up? Are you still wanting to speak, or is?
Well, I would just thank Selena for her remarks, and I don't have enough time really to follow this process as much as I might like. But I know we have been in a conflicted situation in our county, and we're trying to respect everyone's point of view without giving up our own. And so I thought that I should try to participate in this process as much as I could. And I thank Selena for her remarks.
Floyd? You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. I'm a member of the State Democratic Executive Committee. I'm a member of the local Democratic Executive Committee. I belong to the SOAR, that's Steelworkers of America Retirees. I belong to ARA, that's a retirement group. What's going on in the Democratic Party right now concerns me because there's two divisions. There's the traditional Democrats, and then there's progressive movement of the younger, I'll just refer to them as Bernie people. I don't disagree with a lot of the Bernie people on what they're trying for. But as far as blaming the State Democratic Executive Committee for the demise of the Democratic Party in this state, I think is wrong. The reason I think it's wrong is because the National Democratic Party has planks in their platform that in West Virginia are political kryptonite. And the State Democratic Party has to go along with the national because we're an affiliate member. We have no choice. One of those things would be clean energy. I support clean energy. I think it's necessary. We should do it. But you tell a coal miner in the southern part of this state that we're going to do away with coal, oil, and natural gas for the sake of clean energy, you're going to get voted against. If you don't believe me, look at the outcome of the last election. That's all you have to do. Gun control. Nobody needs an AK-47. I had one, I know. But if you tell a lot of these West Virginians you're going to take their AK-47, you got a problem. Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate case. Now, when it comes to diversity, I support diversity 100%. However, if you took all the people, diverse people in this state and put them in a group, they would represent a small percentage of the traditional Democrats in this state who have jumped ship because of the National Democratic Party's issues concerning clean energy, shipping jobs overseas, NAFTA, all of this stuff has decimated the Democratic Party in West Virginia. And I don't know whether there's some way to get the traditional Democrats in this state back on board. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to do that. But if we don't, we're going to be stuck because there's not enough diverse people in this state to control state politics. That's my stump speech for today. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm taking it you haven't had too much trouble in participating in the Democratic Party.
No, I have not had trouble participating in the Democratic Party. I'm pro-labor. I'm pro-union. And I've already told you some of my views. I agree with a lot of I'd like to see universal health care. That's a Bernie issue. So I don't oppose all of Bernie's issues. I'm just saying that some of the issues the state Democratic Party has to go along with, they have no control over. Therefore, I don't think the state Democratic Party should be held responsible for the loss of the Democratic Party in this state.
Okay.
That may not sit well with some people. That's the way it is. If I see it as I have to call it the way I see it.
Thank you, Floyd. We're interested in what everybody has to say. Thank you. And Joseph?
Hi, thanks Floyd for your comments, because you're actually closer to a lot of the history of what's happened in the past as well as the present. It's always easier to put blame on the past or actions than to look forward in the future. And I think one of the key things I think we as Democrats and the Democratic Party need to do is to look at what are the unifying issues that we can promote into the future, and how can we make that best explained to the Democrats, and also I want to say to the independents out there, to make it meaningful for their lives when they go to the voting booth. And I would like to have you maybe elaborate a little more what you think some of those issues might be. You mentioned healthcare for everybody. Obviously, most of us, if not all of us, have Medicare, but we know many people in our families and our relations and our neighbors do not. So that could be a really unifying issue. I wonder if issues in which you can promote something or better describe what might be losing population in this state. I don't think it's because of the coal or the natural gas industry. I think it's because we don't have the forward thinking how to promote small businesses and industry, not necessarily just the big industries, of coming in and remaining. And I think that's something that could be an issue that we could work on. But I wonder if you have ideas, in addition to what you said, that could be issues that would speak to everybody across the board that might be important.
Well, as far as coal goes, my personal view is that coal is a dying industry. It's not coming back. The Pony Express is not coming back. The Model T Ford is not coming back. Technology has moved to the place that coal, I think, is going to go farther down the pipe than it already is. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people that depends on coal for a living. Now, if I did, my views might be quite different. So I don't know how we get those people in the coal mining areas and in the gas drilling and shale business, pipeline industry, how we can get those people back on board. A lot of those people were formerly Democrats, and we've lost them. But that's a national issue, not a state. So I don't know whether the state can do much about what the national sets out to do. We have to go along with it. And some of them, like I said, some of their issues are political kryptonite in West Virginia.
So Floyd, I would just like to add that I believe in a big tent Democratic Party, that people that are conservative or maybe moderate on one side all the way to progressives on the other side. And then I think what needs to happen in West Virginia is that we need to be much more organized and working from the state executive committee and the leadership of the Democratic Party of the state, that somehow there's been a lack of communication to lots and lots of Democrats about what's going on and what they can do to help the party.
I have not suffered from lack of information as far as the Democrats stand on things. Personally, I don't know if others have. That's unfortunate. We ought to do something about that. But the issues that cause people to bail out from the Democratic Party is, let's face it, a Democrat by the name of Bill Clinton passed NAFTA. That cost thousands of jobs nationwide. It even cost jobs in West Virginia. It cost a lot of jobs in the Rust Belt states. Okay, that was a Democrat that done that. And then Hillary Clinton came to West Virginia and said, when I'm elected, there's a lot of coal companies that are going bankrupt and a lot of miners are going to be unemployed. She drove a stake through the heart of the Democratic Party in the southern part of the state. Unfortunately, that happened, and we can't change that. So how do we get around it? It takes somebody smarter than me to figure out. But there's issues like that that has caused the Democratic Party's demise in this state, in my opinion.
Lloyd, you're still on the executive committee?
Yes.
Is there any way the executive committee can promote public service announcements of sorts, but it's more ads, political ads, promoting Democratic goals? And I'm thinking in terms of increased child support that is currently in the act that just got passed, the Rescue Act, whether they can put together public relations and educational short clips that we can use in our local or regional market, whether it be on TV or whether it could be through ads on Facebook, things like that, that could promote reaching out to people with a positive message of what the Democratic Party can do to help people. You know, having the infrastructure bill, that could be something that could be very important to promote the Democratic side of things, in addition to the fact that it was worked on a bipartisan basis, and how things can be worked out to help regular people in West Virginia cope and move on to hopefully a better situation as time goes on. Is there any way the executive committee can invest in such promotional ads and messages?
I could find out. I was in a meeting today of the ARA, Alliance of Retired Americans, and we're having a convention at Cedar Lakes in September. And I made this talking about speakers, and I said we need to get a speaker down there that tells these retirees what the Biden administration has done for them already. There was on Social Security, on Medicare, increases in Medicare, changes in the 401k plan for retirees, issues like that needs to be pointed out to people so that they know that the Democrats in DC aren't just sitting there, they're doing things that benefits people. And one of the things that always amazes me, and I see it on Facebook from my friends all the time, they criticize the people at the bottom of the economic scale that are getting benefits from the government, and that upsets them terribly. But they're unconcerned about the people in the top 2% that are in a lower tax bracket than I have, and they make millions or hundreds of millions, and they're in a lower tax bracket. That's corporate welfare. They're not concerned about that. They're concerned about welfare at the bottom end. I don't understand that.
I don't either.
I guess we're liberals. That's what it is.
I wanted to add that this is the kind of conversation that is available here in the senior caucus.
Right.
You know, the LGBTQ plus has a conversation that matches their group of people, but this is the kind of conversation that there is for us to be putting into the affirmative action plan that we're creating. So I appreciate that we're having this conversation. And then Marianne has her hand up, followed by Pam.
I see. Marianne?
I just wanted to add that this is one of the reasons that I really like coming to the senior caucus, because you are not afraid to stand up and say what you want, no matter how anybody feels. And I just like the idea that we've got people from different I hate to use the word factions, but you know, we've got moderates, we've got conservatives, we've got progressives, and that we can have these conversations. And this is what we need to do with our neighbors and our friends, is get back to having conversations with them. Because that's the way I think that we're going to be able to win them back, is having those conversations, because we all, no matter what we believe, we all have something that we have in common. And so and having those conversations, we'll be able to have talk to them and be able to get them to come back.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Pam?
Thank you, everyone. My name is Pam Garrison, and I'm secretary on the Disability Caucus. And the gentleman that was just speaking, this is not no disrespect or anything. This is just my opinion and what I've lived in with the Democratic Party. I did have problems getting in it. I tried for 4 years trying to get a hold of people and trying to get a hold of somebody and be able to get involved in the Democratic Party. And it took me 4 years to be able to convert, to get somebody's name and who to contact and who to get a hold of in my party. 26% of the elected caucus people who elect is disabled. Another 24% is youth. To me, it seems like my party is trying to message. They won't stand up for what we believe in to the other party. They are so busy trying to appease the other party and not cause a riffle that I feel like my party needs messaging. Is a lot of my party's problems. We do need to start crowing about the things that we're accomplished, the truths that we stand up for, what we believe in. We do need to be that kind of Democrats. And I believe that when they see that we can be leaders and not followers, that we will have more people to come into the Democratic Party and come back to the Democratic Party. And I'm like you, coal mining is a dinosaur. It is a dying industry. But if we start giving people hope and saying, hey, the future, the old Fords aren't coming back, but we've got a plan. We've got jobs. We've got a future. That's what the Democratic Party has. I think that's more the route we need to go. We have been so silent for so long that people don't think we can lead anymore. And so that's just what I've observed since, I've been a Democrat my whole life. And I want my elected officials to stand up, to stand for what they are principles, to stand up and not be afraid to say the truth. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to talk about, I see
Nancy has her.
Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
I just wanted to say that I was thrilled to hear the last speaker's remarks, and I don't know her yet, but I hope someday to know her. And I just wanted to say I was thrilled with her remarks.
Nancy.
Yeah.
And that's something else. I think we have neglected our counties. Every county, you wouldn't believe how many counties we don't even have committees in. The Democratic Party has let our party go down and not invested in our counties and in our people, bringing them in. And I think that's something I really want to work on. And I've had trouble getting in the Fayette County Party, Democratic Executive Party, so this is an issue that's still going on.
Joe?
I'm going to send this back to Floyd. Is there any way that the state executive committee can start promoting, strengthening and developing each county's democratic committees? You know, just not just let them be, but go out there and promote and give them training and other skills to.
And I would add before you start, Floyd, is that the Raleigh County, the chair of the Raleigh County Democratic Executive Committee was very disappointed when the state committee got rid of the county committee's organization, county committee chair's organization, because he felt like that immediately took away their voice with the state executive committee.
I don't know. I can only speak to Mason County. In Mason County, our state or our county executive committee meetings is open to the public. Any Democrat that wants to attend the Democratic Executive Committee meeting is welcome to attend. And whenever we elect, of course, the executive board members to the county are elected at at the election time. Your name is on the ballot. You can go sign up to get on and run as a county Democratic Executive Committee member. And it's the same way at the state. You go to the Secretary of State's office, you can sign up to run for the state Democratic Executive Committee. Now it gets complicated because there can't be two men from the same county or two women from the same county. But basically that's how you get involved. And for the lady who was saying that she had trouble getting involved, I would assume that all counties, that their state executive meeting or their county executive meetings are open to any Democrat. I know ours are.
In Raleigh County, they're open, but people don't always find out about them. There's only a limited number of people that get the email.
Floyd,
Ladies here.
Floyd, the one thing I guess I really wonder, when I'm wondering whether the state executive committee could sponsor how to improve the communication abilities and the outreach abilities of each of the county Democratic committees. In other words, how can they stir up more interest, get more attendance and more involvement by the Democrats in their counties? In effect, how to reinvigorate and stimulate the abilities to reach out to others. Is there anything that the executive committee at the state level can do to promote training at the county level to do this?
They have, yes, they already have that. Matter of fact, the county chairs or the county executive committees can go to these training sessions, but they have to do it they have to sign up for it and show up to whenever the meeting is scheduled. That happens right now. I know that our county chair here in Mason County, she's been to a number of training sessions put on by the state Democratic Party. But due to this COVID things, that has slowed down a lot. And I know that in the last year or so, we haven't had a lot of get-togethers because of the COVID. But I've been to those training sessions myself as a county individual.
In a separate matter, and I hope patients would just tolerate for a minute. Floyd, will you please contact me on your own sometime about the Clemens Tree Nursery? Thank you.
Yeah, I know about that Clemens Tree Nursery. They
Call
closed
me
it.
sometime. Call me.
Okay.
On your own. On your own.
Okay. Do you have my email address?
You guys can exchange emails in the chat, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. We can do that.
Mary Ann has had her hand up here for a bit.
I just wanted to, you had mentioned about the county chairs. They did recently have an election and they have co-chairs for the county chairs now. And they, and I know I know both of them, and they're really, good chairs in their own counties. So, and I've ran statewide, so I know a lot of people, and I haven't had the problems that other people have had. I've had, some different problems, but not as far as when I went to the meetings. I was always welcomed. Everybody always let me talk. People, people even, help me with my campaign and stuff. But I just wanted, just for a point of information, to let people know that, there are things that the thing is, everybody doesn't know, but they do have a kind of, that organization is getting started back up, and they're trying to move forward on getting some, things done.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wants to talk about troubles they've had in being able to work with the Democratic Party? Priscilla?
Linda Stein, did you want to say something? You took your hand down.
I was going to just say, it sounds like we, all of us who have tried to work with our county Democratic parties have had ups and downs. And in our county, there have been different eras of leadership, and with different amounts of inclusivity, but also not a very good support from the state party. When in particular, there was somebody who was very inclusive, worked really hard as our Democratic Party Executive Committee chairperson, and I think made a huge difference. And there had a lot of training, a lot of activity, but was not at all supported by the state. And that was very disappointing. And then during COVID, it's been kind of a moving target, trying to figure out when meetings get canceled, meetings are on Zoom, and so it can be chalked up to that. But again, it's feeling not very inclusive. And that's Fayette County.
Thanks, Linda. Andrew, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and I did bring this up at that listening meeting, but I attended as proxy at the county executive committee, and the subject at hand was rather critical. It had to do with replacing someone who'd passed away on the state executive committee. And so not a minor thing. You're talking about a recommendation for a seat on the county, on the state executive committee. And I was muted during a conference call many, many times. It sounded from the outside like I was breaking up. I won't get into the other details, but there's just some things that are the opposite of inclusion in Fayette County. And I see head shakes. Okay, and I won't add any more. Since I'm on the mic, Priscilla, I'm the secretary. What is your last name? Maybe someone else knows.
My last name is Gay, G-A-Y.
Okay, hey, thanks a lot, Priscilla. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Priscilla, do you have anything you want to add or at all?
I think some very good ideas have been set out. I always worry about follow through. So I'm hopeful that there is a lot of follow through with ideas that are set forth.
Yeah, I worry about follow through too.
Well, I would like to speak to that just for a minute, because what we're here doing is gathering information to be used by the Affirmative Action Planning Committee to put this kind of information into the plan. And then we'll have a framework to be able to then put some of these things into practice. So this is a gathering of information. Andrew, do you have one last thing before we move on?
Yeah, one last thing. It's on follow through. There was a couple of people that said they'd do things the last meeting, which was on July 19th. Cindy, who's not on the call, said she'd contact Paula Rumberg, and Cindy and Mary said they were going to contact their county clerks to get a list of new registrants. I'm wondering, as the secretary, if that ever happened. Speaking of follow through.
Well, I'd like to say that Paula is on the line today on the Zoom with us. So that obviously happened. And then Cindy and I haven't talked. I actually put 2 calls into my county clerk, and I have not talked to her, but it's on my list. I'll check in with Cindy, Andrew. All right, want to move on, Bob?
Yep. Unless anybody else has anything they want to say. Okay. The next on our,
Bob, excuse me, I just have one more thing. There is a link to a form called the Barriers to Participation, and we can find it, and I'll see if I can find it and put it in the chat so people have it, and then I'll make sure that you have it, Bob, that can be sent out in the follow-up.
okay,
Maybe I'm going to do that so I can just stay present to the meeting.
all right.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is a listserv/website. We had talked about that as something that would be useful for both the senior caucus and perhaps for the Affirmative Action Committee, separate apart from the State Democratic website, which we have a page on at this point. That's a little hard to put stuff on, but I didn't do any real investigation, but when I went to the Raleigh County Executive Committee meeting, there's a fellow there who was proposing to do a website for Raleigh County Executive Committee. And he was offering to do it essentially for about $100 a month, including putting things online that we sent to him and making sure everything was kept up to date. So I just wanted to put that out there as a price point that may or may not be good, but when we look to getting somebody to do this, that's one we can look at, I think, to see if that's the right price or if somebody does it less or more or whatever. I can't remember if we created a subcommittee to look into this or not, or if anybody's interested in it.
We should check in with Andrew.
Andrew?
Did we create any kind of a subcommittee to look into social media,
No, we didn't.
listserv, etc.?
No.
I know that other committees, other caucuses have done that, but they have a different demographic than we do. So I don't know here who might be interested in that. Or if we should go to one of the other caucuses to seek some assistance.
Betty?
I think I think I missed the last meeting. It was the meeting before that that I made that suggestion. And I think my request was that it be taken to the Affirmative Action Committee to do something for all the caucuses. I don't see that as really functioning well if it's each I mean,
caucus.
We don't control what any other caucus does, but I would prefer to be part of a larger picture.
All right.
Especially since some of us are on more than one caucus.
It is on the agenda tomorrow, Betty.
Thank you. I plan to sit in on that meeting.
Good.
Do we have the link to that?
I don't think the invitation's come out yet, or if it has, I'll look and see if I have one.
Could someone?
Well, I know I have one. I'll have to see if I can find.
It's on the West Virginia Democrats.com page on the calendar. So it's there, and then we can see about getting it sent out tomorrow.
I appreciate if you do that. I have trouble navigating the state website.
Okay. I know I got it from an email, so I'll have to go back and find that email. Maybe I can.
What time is the meeting?
I'm sorry, it's at 8:30.
Thank you.
And I can't remember why it's so late, but that's apparently what people were available.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'll bring this information that I got up at tomorrow night at that meeting when we talk about that, if we get to it. Okay, the next thing I have on the agenda is new business and survey, which is what Mary was going to post a link to. Did you do that, Mary, or?
No, I said that we'd send it out tomorrow because to go away from the meeting, it takes me, I'm not that good. I don't have it handy.
Okay. Yeah, now, if you'll send it to me, I'll send it out to everybody after the meeting. I may have it too. I don't know how I can find it, but I might have it.
Let's speak for a minute about the survey, Bob. Have you looked at any of the results?
I've looked a little bit. The last I saw, there were 40 or 41 people, something like that, that had responded to the survey.
41 seniors or 41 in total?
41 in total.
So that's what I wanted to point to. So if you have not filled out the survey, it would be really useful for the Affirmative Action Planning Committee to have the information from you. And if each one of us said we'll have 3 people or 10 people that will make sure get the survey, that information is, besides the listening tours, is invaluable to us as we are putting together this plan. So I don't know if I can make a request of people. Anybody who would take on sending it to 2 to 10 other people, that would really make a big difference.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is the retreat. We've already have we covered that fully enough, or do we need to cover it more?
I don't think there's anything else to say about it, Bob.
Okay. And then finally, other new business. Is there any other new business that anybody wants to bring up? Andrew, whoops, Nancy Hilbos has her hand up.
I actually came on partly this evening to say this particular thing because I'm not sure how many people are aware of it. But there does exist a bill in the United States Senate, 1295, called the Trust Act. And I don't know if anybody wants to just stick up their hand and say, yeah, I know about that. It's Mitt Romney introduced it. But both of our United States senators have co-sponsored. And they claim that it is a rescue Social Security and Medicare legislative attempt. But I don't really believe that that's the case. And I think a lot of people know that it is an attempt to fast track or pre-plan a cut to Social Security and Medicare should there be some Rubicon that has to be crossed metric wise, but it makes it almost impossible to stop such a cut if withholding would drop below a certain level or something like that. And it has actually not gotten a lot of press, but it's starting to leak out that that they have been trying to sneak this in when big budget items are being discussed as now. And I really wish that the Democratic Party would ask for a meeting with Joe to ask him why does he think this is a good idea? And I'm asking my union, the United Mine Workers, to also think about that. because I know he wants to be known as someone who supports retirees in our state. And he does do things from time to time that do that. But this would undercut all of our neighbors. And I, as a retired United Mine Worker, do not want to see my neighbors undercut. And of course, it would also undercut me, and it would undercut all United Mine Workers if this would happen. So I just wanted to make sure that this group knew about that, and maybe you all do and just haven't mentioned it, but that's my message.
And are you asking this group to take action, I guess is the question. And what are you asking us to do?
I'm asking you to take notice for the moment, because I've talked to AARP in West Virginia, and although it was thought about pouncing this thing during the current negotiations, it was backed off. They are not expecting it any minute, but they did say to me that they are very concerned about it and completely opposed to it.
Okay.
AARP,
And
our
that's,
lobby in West Virginia.
that's Senate Bill 1295?
Correct.
Okay.
So anybody as an individual that feels comfortable writing to Joe, calling Joe, whatever, please do so. I think a lot of you probably do know enough to know that you don't really want him as a co-sponsor of that. But if you don't, let's try to get a conversation going. But I just don't think very many people have known about it.
Thanks, Nancy. Linda and Dan, one of you has your hand up.
I'll speak for us. I want to thank Mary for doing such a great job, Mary Thorpe, for doing such a great job reviewing all the progress that's happened. And we have a resolution that supports that and hopefully contributes to maintaining the momentum. And I'm going to paste it into the chat. I hope. Okay, I got it. And do you want me to read this, or do you, Bob, do you?
Sure, go ahead and read it.
Okay, see, a senior caucus resolution supporting the co-chairs of our caucus, the current leadership of the Affirmative Action Committee, and the at-large diversity members. What?
It hasn't showed up in the chat yet.
Oh, wait, let me.
Not send, you have to go down the
Let me go, maybe didn't do send, sorry. Sorry, there it is. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I put it in there, but then only I could see. So sorry. As a senior caucus resolution supporting the co-chairs of our caucus, the current leadership of the Affirmative Action Committee, and the at-large diversity members of the West Virginia Democratic Party Executive Committee. And it's dated August 16th, 2021, today. The Senior Caucus hereby affirms our strong support for the current leadership of the Affirmative Action Committee of the West Virginia Democratic Party and the diversity at large members of the State Executive Committee. The caucus also affirms its strong support for the current senior caucus co-chairs, We likewise enjoin our co-chairs to use your voice on the sitting AAC to stress the importance of completing the AAC draft plan that will provide for representation of all diversity groups on the West Virginia Democratic Executive Committee.
And are you moving that that resolution be adopted?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, the motion's on the floor for discussion then. Betty?
I just have a question. I know the issue's come up a couple times and I've raised it, and I know Mary Ann has and some other people about, and I go back to what may be a false understanding at the beginning of this whole process, that once we had all of the caucuses in, we would have a new election. And so I'm just curious how this relates to that. I mean, on the face of it, I don't have any problem with what it says, but I'm still very interested in down the line, after we have our plan, after we have our bylaws, going back and empowering our entire caucus, all 18 co-chairs, to have an equal voice in what our leadership is. So does this get in the way of that, or is this separate? This is what I want to understand.
Linda?
What I understood is this is a recognition of present people who are doing various jobs, acknowledging that. I didn't understand this to be a statement that would go from this day until the end. I didn't understand that connotation. That's not at all. I understood this is saying something about where we are now. Kind of like, okay, and it was a very positive thing. And as Linda said, what Mary did, really, you need to sometimes look at where you are and don't beat yourself up, but recognize where you are and what you have been able to accomplish in order to go forward. That's how I'm seeing that. So what Linda put together, I interpreted it as being a document that would basically state that in so many words, but it has this, I don't see it as having a bearing on whatever will be what I'll call the next step, which will happen sometime later this fall, which is the expectation. And I don't expect that to be a quick step either.
Kristen, you have your hand up, and then I think Betty was raising hers. So Chris.
Yeah, I would just say that in another caucus that I'm in, we've already gone along with, I mean, we've already approved this, a very similar resolution. And I think it is necessary now to really put us, exactly what Jean just said, put us in a good place for going forward from here. That does not mean that we are not going to go ahead with new elections come next spring. We're going to go ahead with them as far as I know, and keep the ball rolling. But right now we need to continue with the leadership we have. It's taken so much effort to get to where we are. The last thing we want to do is change right now. Let's wait until we get through this first initial phase, and then we can go back and include everybody that wasn't included in the first phase. And I think that's pretty much what this is all about. Going forward, we have so much on our agenda. We have so much to accomplish, and we have accomplished so much. It's absolutely amazing. So I think the purpose of this resolution is to acknowledge that and to just go forward from here.
So So I'm hearing two different things. And Linda and Dan, I appreciate if you could, in your own voice, clarify this. I don't respond too well to just emojis and stuff. I really want to know where you're coming from with this, because I think there's, because what Jean was saying was that we might reevaluate all of this in the fall. And what Chris is saying is that we'll wait for the regular election cycle in the spring. And I have mixed feelings about that myself. I just don't want to preempt those options by approving a resolution now that where we don't really know what we're doing. You know, I want us to be very clear about what we're doing. And then that will dictate my vote. Yeah.
Okay. Our view was that in raising this was partially what Jean said, but what Chris said about the elections, and that let's move along with and keep the momentum going. And so yeah, yes, the elections in the spring.
So is there an objection to that? Somebody said there was a caucus that was pushing for new leadership earlier. Could you give us the context of why this is all coming up?
This was just an affirmation of where we are and maintaining that for now till the spring.
So Bob, you mentioned that there was another caucus. When we talked privately today, you mentioned there's another resolution from another caucus that is different from this one.
That's correct. The Indigenous caucuses, I think I may have been sent a link to it, but I haven't looked at it. But my understanding is that they passed a resolution expressing no confidence in the chairs of the Affirmative Action Committee. Kristen?
What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say that we did discuss this in another caucus that I'm in, and one of many that I'm in, there was absolute unanimity of thought in that we wanted to have this kind of a resolution going forward. And I think that there are other caucuses that will be passing similar resolutions to this one.
Betty?
So I've been thinking about this a lot without even knowing that these resolutions were in the works today. Because I'm trying to explain what we're doing to other groups outside of the Democratic Party. And one of the questions that keeps bugging me, and I'm just going to put it on the table because it relates exactly to this resolution and discussion, is that our goal is to diversify the state executive committee to be more reflective of the percents of the different diversities that are represented. But the Women's Caucus and the Senior Caucus are not underrepresented. They already have full representation on the executive committee in terms of percentage or whatever. Right. So are we hurting ourselves by having one of our co-chairs of our Affirmative Action Committee basically add to the imbalance by being a white woman who doesn't have an underrepresented? And this is not personal to Mary. I'm just trying to sort it out in my own mind so I can explain it to other people. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think that points to, if that is an issue, and maybe it isn't to anybody else, but if it is an issue, then I think it needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. In other words, we're making it skewed more toward more, white majority people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me just say at this point that, and get to you next, Floyd. In addition to the 2 affirmative action chairs that have been added to the executive committee, there are slots for 6 more more people nominated by the Affirmative Action Committee. And those folks are all from different, we tried to diversify the caucuses that were represented on the executive board, executive committee, I should say. So we have someone who's from the Latin American caucus, somebody from the Disability Caucus, maybe two from the Disability Caucus. We had to divide them up, two from each congressional district. So there's people from all the different caucuses, or as many as we could get with eight slots. We have not yet filled the male slot from the 3rd district because we accidentally suggested 2 people from the 2nd district, thinking one of them was from the 3rd at the state executive committee meeting that took place back in early June. I can't remember the date, maybe the 4th or something like that. So the goal has been to get somebody from as many of the different caucuses as possible onto the committee.
But is there a difference between an underrepresented caucus and a represented caucus?
Well, my understanding is that Belinda Biafor insisted on adding women and seniors to the original 7 underrepresented caucuses to create the Affirmative Action Committee. So I don't know that I don't know that there's any real difference between the different groups as far as who should be on the state executive committee.
But that's something we have control over. In other words, we don't have to have somebody from every caucus.
We don't.
And we
Floyd?
can't, because there's none of them. Anyway.
As far as the state Democratic Executive Committee is concerned, I'd like to see more diversity on that committee. However, it's equal or should be equal between men and women. And it is, I believe. When it comes to other diverse groups, those people have to run for that office, and they have to get elected. Now, if they ran and don't get elected, I don't know what we can do about that. This state, unfortunately, or whatever, is not a very diverse state. It's made up of what I would call WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. That's the majority. And we'll have to admit there's prejudice in West Virginia. And if somebody that's not one of those groups run, they're going to have a hard time getting elected. Mary Ann could probably attest to that. I voted for her, I support her, I'd like to see her win. I'm sorry she didn't. But that's just my view of the situation as it stands.
Mary Ann?
I just thought, since y'all brought this up, that I didn't want to really do it in your caucus, but I've just not had a very good experience on the Affirmative Action Committee. You're certain of us that voiced our opinions about how we wanted the new caucuses to be welcomed, to be added to subcommittees. After, I've sent many emails that remain unanswered, unacknowledged. Things are getting thrown at us without it having an actual vote, going into a regular meeting, being voted on prior to. I just wanted you all to have that information from me. And I don't think we're going to get new chairs or anything because, but it's just a principle of having people given their voice and the opportunity. But honestly, I don't think anybody else wants to deal with this. I mean, just to be honest. But I do want us to be able to start having respect for those that are in diverse, the truly underrepresented groups, to have their voices heard, not to feel like they're being silenced, not to feel like they're just here as pawns in some other type of agenda or some other type of game that's going on that we weren't aware of. And there's a lot of chatter in the background of conversations that I started having with people because of the non-communication skills that, have went about. So I just wanted everybody, to understand that as you're, making these decisions.
Is there anybody else with their hand up?
I have my hand up.
Oh, and then Betty.
I just want to say that we have a motion on the floor. We shouldn't forget that. That's been moved and seconded. And we're having our discussion right now, but we still have a motion on the floor. So in parliamentary procedure, we need to vote on that motion, hopefully soon.
Yes. Betty?
So pertinent to the discussion, I just want to support what Marianne said as an white ally, that I have been very concerned about some of the kind of disrespect that I've seen in the caucuses and the Affirmative Action Committee. And I don't want that to continue. And I don't know what it's going to take to change it. I suggested in the listening session, the last listening, I've been to both listening sessions, and then the last one I suggested that we have training offered to all the Affirmative Action Committee, and Rosemary said she would take that to the group tomorrow along the lines of cracking the code, which is about systemic racism. And I'm not accusing anybody of being racist. What I'm saying is that we're all part of a system that can lead to the kind of disrespect that I think I've been seeing. And it's, to me, it's really becoming a barrier in participating in this whole process. And that goes back to the discussion of barriers. And so I don't, and the reason I'm bringing it up in the context of this resolution is because I don't want that to continue. And I don't want to support that aspect of what is happening under our current leadership. And that's, I'll probably abstain from the vote. But that's where I'm coming from on this issue.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Jean? You're muted, Jean. There you go.
I am listening and trying to understand what people are not saying. I am not good at reading between the lines. I am starting to feel like something is going on here. Something has gone on. There's a hell of a big elephant in this room, folks.
Okay.
And I think you all understand that. It's gotten me uncomfortable at this particular point. I would be pretty upset if I thought I was thinking of things in one way and I found out it was another way. It would be very upsetting to me. It would cause me to have to think a lot about a lot of people and who they are and who I thought they were. So if there's anybody who can make things a bit clearer,
Mary?
That would be helpful to me. Thank you.
Well, there are two things that I would bring up here, is that that nobody has the full picture of what's going on and what there's been to deal with in the leadership of the Affirmative Action Committee. There have been some very aggressive, a lot of aggression that's been there to have to deal with. And the other thing that I would mention is that given one of the things that Betty brought up about the cultural conversations, that will be part of the meeting tomorrow, and everything that anybody has brought up will be part of the meeting tomorrow in the agenda. So that's what I could say at this point.
Well, just to be really explicit, some of you have been in some of the caucuses I've been in where there has been just blatant disrespect on a racial basis, and again, I'm not accusing any individual, and this is not about individuals. It's about educating ourselves. When I first saw Cracking the Code about 5 or 6 years ago, went through the training a number of times, helped do the training. It was incredible asset to me, and I would like to see our process get the benefit of that same resource, because I know how much it meant to me, and I was a lifelong, advocate for civil rights, but I still learned a lot from that process about my white privilege and how to use that, hopefully in a more supportive way. And to me, that's the elephant in the room is that not everyone has had the benefit of that kind of training.
And duly noted, Betty. Thank you for your continued, contribution in moving this forward. So thank you. And then Chris has her hand up, Bob.
Chris, I'm sorry.
Yes, I would just like to say that I've taken Cracking the Code 2 or 3 times now, and I agree, it's absolutely wonderful, and I think it'd be marvelous if we could start with the caucuses and include the Affirmative Action Committee, and maybe then go into the State Executive Committee, and maybe even the County Executive Committees. So I think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea, and I totally support going forward with that. What I don't support, though, is this idea that there is continued disrespect being shown in meetings. There was some disrespect in one meeting early on, but every meeting that I have been in ever since then has been, there has been, as far as I know, there's no disrespect shown in this meeting at all. And in the other meetings that I've been in, there have been a lot of good discussion of things, and we're moving forward on things. So I think that there was some problems getting started, absolutely no question about it, but I think we're trying our best. Everyone is trying their best to make sure that we can move forward on this, and to apologize for any disrespect that was shown previously, and to move forward on this. And I have not seen any disrespect since those beginning first meetings. And so I think we need to move on, and that's what this is all about, I believe, is trying to say, okay, let's just move on from here. We'll go ahead and do whatever we need to do to make this work. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Selena?
Yes, I am not an official member of this, and I'm not speaking for or against the resolution. But since there were 2 things that people asked for that I thought I might be able to give some clarifying information to. First, and I think Mary did a little bit of this, but first to Ms. Reward's statement about, cracking the code, and not just that, but we've received an email today from another member offering it's a suggestion and a training for basically cultural competencies. We've received information from different caucuses saying, hey, this would be really great to have, different type of cultural competencies. There's a lot of new people coming together from a lot of different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and we want to all learn and grow together. And so one of the things that, the agenda went out a little bit earlier today. And one of the things on there is the suggestion tomorrow night for the committee to create a subcommittee basically called the Cultural Competency Subcommittee. Mary might be able to talk more about this. This is very much her idea. But to basically have a few people who would be willing to coordinate things like cracking the code, like this other training or other suggestions from different caucuses. And that while, we know that there is a lot of very concrete work to do, like the strategic plan and different things like that, that the more that we learn and grow together as a committee, the stronger our decisions and the stronger that group will be. So, and just so you know, we, true to her word, has already sent in the motion, requesting for making a motion about cracking the code. So that will be, considered tomorrow. As far as Jean's question about you're very perceptive, Jean, and I can't speak to everybody's.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up.
If you ask, sure, but I'll give you, I don't know how to fix it. Let me turn off my video and see if that helps.
You're clear now.
Oh, is that help? Okay, well, let me just turn the video off and see if maybe that helps with the bandwidth. But I can't, everybody has their own, I'm sure version of the story, good or bad or whatever. But, I will tell you that, I have received some really horrifying, very aggressive emails. And, I've been accused of being racist, undermining people of diversity. Please send me the minutes to the meeting. I send them a link to the meeting because I don't have the minutes to the meeting done. And, you're incompetent because you don't have minutes done, but they have the link to the whole meeting. Now, whether you agree whether I should have the minutes ready or not, surely to God, it's not okay. And different people have been called liars, and this this isn't everybody. This is coming very, very select. And anyway, it's been difficult. And then there's been calls for people's resignations because they're incompetent and non-transparent and And so I don't have a position on the resolution, but if you want to know the backstory, that's a minute part of my backstory of what I've experienced in, since, basically the 1st of July. So anyway, that I'm not going to speak to other people's things. And like I said, everybody has their own, but that will give you some idea. Thank you.
Mary Ann?
I just wanted to be clear, every email that I have ever sent, I tag everyone so that everyone knows the conversations that are going on, because I have built quite the reputation across the state. And the things that I asked for, I just didn't think that they were nitpicky at all. Just common things about when is the next bylaws committee? Are we going to contact the people who, the new caucuses? It's just been, and it's the same emails I kept sending over and over. I kept breaking them down into smaller emails and smaller emails and smaller emails. And, and tonight we get an agenda minutes links that I'd asked for before, and I just want everyone to understand my frustration. I am at the point that I'm close to resigning. When I talked to another member that has been sick, they said, you go, I'm probably going to go. It's just at that point.
Selena?
I think you just.
Yeah,
said-
I wasn't referring to you, Mary Ann, and just, I mean, just to give you an example, while I was speaking just now, I got multiple emails from somebody, I'm not going to mention who, that, you know, indicating stop line. I'm listening to them, to tell them those are ad hominem attacks. I mean, jokers. I mean, this is just right now. I'm receiving emails from, or I'm sorry, texts. And again, it's just, there are very aggressive and difficult things that people on this committee are dealing with, that if you want to know the backstory, there's some of that.
Are you still there, Selena?
Yes.
Okay. Were you finished?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm on my phone and I'm not used to doing Zoom by phone, and it's a little difficult, and I'm still getting text, so sorry.
Okay. Chris? And then I think we should wrap this up and vote, so. You're muted, Chris.
Muted. I would just like to say that, you know, I think this has been a very, very difficult thing for a lot of people. We're bringing people in from all different backgrounds and trying to do something very fast, and everybody's getting. I had people calling me and attacking me. What have I done? And so basically, I think if we could just all put our things by the, you know, down for a while, and try to see how we could work together, and in the typical big tent democratic way, we have come so far. I've been in this, working on this for the last 3 years. I am one of the grassroots reformers of Salinas. And I'll tell you, we worked very, very, very hard to get the bylaws changes that allowed us to do the things we're doing today. And no one should be attacking each other. Let's just try to work together. That's the most important thing. And that's, I think, the purpose of this resolution, is just to try to really get it out there for everybody to see. We are going to make a commitment to work together with existing leadership so that we can move forward and keep this thing going, because all of the progress that we've made to date, we don't want to lose it. This is more important. This is combating systemic racism right here. That's what we're all about, bringing minorities into the Democratic Party of West Virginia. And so we are doing tremendous work here, and it's very difficult. But let's not attack Selena or attack me or attack anybody. Let's go to see what our common goals are, our common needs are, and work together to try to make the changes that we need to make.
Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken that wishes to speak? Joe?
I do not wish to speak. I'd like to call the motion.
Okay. Okay. Before we do that, Joe, because I would like to give everybody a chance to say something, and then I don't think we'll have to have a 2/3 vote to call the motion. Jean, did you want to say something more?
I just want to say thank you, those of you that have added more to the conversation. Fortunately for me, and fortunately for whoever want to text me or send me a message, I haven't had that happen. I believe, I'm one who goes with things. I believe you're being honest and upfront with me until I have to pull a knife out of my back, and that has happened a few times. And it strictly has been in good old West Virginia, my home state. I've gone through more hell here with people than any other place. And I'm willing to stick with the motion. I was really kind of toying around rescinding my second because of whatever. Yeah, this group, people, West Virginians, are going through something now that they have never been through. Never been through. Never been through. Period. And don't expect it to be easy. Don't expect it not to have to come back and change something that was a good idea yesterday or the next minute. But that's all part of figuring it out and making it work. And I do have I have a request, but it's not pertinent to the motion. Something that I've been listening to, I've been hearing, and it's like there's some misunderstanding, I think. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak? All right, then let's bring this to a vote. Pam, did you want to say something?
Just my clarification and what I'm seeing and what I'm understanding, because I've been in other caucus meetings where this is being discussed and this same issue is being discussed. From what I understand of the issue that is being brought before each caucus is, do we have, now that the other caucuses has been established, do we have new elections? Or do we keep the affirmative action committee that we have now until we get through with what we're all working on, the bylaws and the what the affirmative action committee has the things they have to work on, and at the end of it, it will be about time for new elections. And rather than have more elections and stop the processes and start over, if some new person has to take over, each caucus is deciding to continue on or their objections. And so am I understanding this resolution right? That this resolution is saying that we agree to move forward with the leadership that we have right now. And if we are, then I would like to second the motion, and I'm for the resolution.
I see Linda shaking her head yes. So
I can talk. I can say yes.
okay.
Thank you.
You were muted, so I didn't know if you were trying to say yes. All right, so let's all in favor of passing this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Is there any other new business that we need to take up? Jean.
It isn't new business, but I would like the chair to request Selena to explain how the numbers of diverse people and groups came about. What is it based on? Because the comment I heard some time ago was said to me that what we're working on now was not based on what I understand it to be, but what was thought to be. I think I was clear enough. Where did these numbers come from? And Selena can tell us that.
Is that okay, Bob?
Yes, go ahead, Selena. I'm sorry.
Okay. Jean, are you talking about the percentages that the percentages of the Democratic electorate? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. I understand it. The numbers came up based on the people who voted.
Okay. So Yes, so the numbers that we're working with, and let me, I think I have them memorized, and let me just say them so people will know what they are, and then I'll explain where they come from. Youth is 26%. People with disabilities are 20, I think it's 23 or 24%. LGBTQ, 8%. Black Americans, 6%. And then Latin Americans are 2%. AAPI and Indigenous people are both separately, they are both 1%. And is that all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. And then we have, then the other two diversity groups are women and seniors. But in terms of those that I just mentioned and those percentages, as of the 2016, which is the last presidential election that they've given us numbers for. Now, we've had a presidential election since then, the 2020 election, but we haven't been provided the data from that. So you go with the last presidential election because that's the largest. And you look at the percentage of these different groups that voted for Democrats. And so that information was provided to us by a data team at the DNC. And I happen to know that I think Mary and Bob, and I think some other people sent a letter to the DNC early on in this process, asking them for the updated numbers. They have not received those. And so what the Affirmative Action Committee will do now is to utilize those numbers, and the goal, the very specific goal of the Affirmative Action Committee that is outlined in the bylaws, is to develop a plan that will provide for representation on the state executive committee, basically proportional to those numbers. And that it has to have specific goals and timetables. So that's basically the primary work and goal of the Affirmative Action Committee. So they have to figure out how to get to that proportional representation, and they have to figure out when the goal is for doing that. Did that answer your question, Jane?
Yes, thank you.
Andrew?
Yeah, a question. The resolution passed, I think, unanimously. Did anybody recuse themselves? Okay, so just one person recused themselves. Thanks a lot.
Chris?
I just wanted to mention that I think that some of those, like the disabled, is not based on the electorate. It's based on the overall population, isn't it? And maybe there's others that are like that too.
No, this is the Democratic electorate.
We don't have disabled voter information in the. Anyway, maybe I think that there's some more pure permutations in that data. Okay. Anyway.
Well, I can just tell you that's what the DNC data, and I have the document that they provided that. So that's what they gave.
Okay, Floyd, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Selena, does she have any record on the percentage of people over 60 that voted compared to those under 30 who voted?
I don't have that, but I'm pretty sure that the state executive committee, if you ask Belinda, I'm sure that they could, the things that have to do with ages are very easy to determine. Well, actually, that's not true. That will just say registration. I'm not exactly, there is a formula about how they get to this percentage, but that would probably be relatively easy to figure based on, because we know people's ages.
I've seen those numbers before, and I can't give you the exact numbers. I don't remember, but those over 60 vote at almost twice the rate of those under 30.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a disproportional amount of influence exerted in the state Democratic Party elections by those over 60 as compared to those under 30. That was the point I was trying to make.
Floyd, I think the Youth Caucus has defined itself as under 36 or 36 and under, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe that what her figures show is that 24% of the people who voted Democrat were under 36, and the other 76%, subtracting quickly, would be people over 36. And I would guess that a significant hunk of them are over 60.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind me just saying, so Mr. Sayre, and I appreciate your comments earlier. And the goal of this is not to have proportionality of everything, because it's impossible to do that. What it is intended to do is, from the civil rights movement, when youth and women and people who were Latin, people who were Black, they did not have. They basically were completely cut out of the Democratic Party. And through the civil rights movement came this understanding that there would be a push towards having proportionality for certain underrepresented groups, like for instance, Latin Americans, they only make up 2% of the Democratic electorate in West Virginia, and therefore they should have somewhere akin to 2% representation on the state executive committee. And so anyway, it's not necessarily has to be proportional for every group, because that's impossible to have, but there are certain historically underrepresented groups that this is the intention of this, and it's in the Article 8 of the charter of the DNC.
How do you get them on there is my question.
Well, that
have
is
to be voted to get on, and how are you going to get people to vote for them if they don't want to? I mean, unfortunately, that's the situation you're faced with.
Well, that's the question of the century, Mr. Sayre, and that will be, I'm sure, part of the discussion at the retreat, and the decision that the ideas the affirmative action committee is going to have. Just off the top of my head, some of the ideas is people need to know that how to run for elections, and doing outreach to the different caucuses, letting people know when county committee elections, when state committee elections are up, training people to run. That's a classic way to do it, and has not been done throughout West Virginia. And so that's a good thing to do. Also, there are, the diversity at large positions. We wanted more. We asked for a lot, and we only got 6. There could be a rule providing for proportional representation after the original 68 members are elected. That's what Alabama did. There are vacancies that are open right now. Mick Bates and Jeff Campbell, who are on the state executive committee, they decided they were Republicans instead of Democrats, so those positions will be open. Those, I think that the affirmative action committee, that's one of the things that's going to be on the at least announced tomorrow, and the affirmative action committee can make recommendations for those. So there's different things that I'm sure will go into the plan, and those are just some ideas off the top of my head. But I'm sure that there are lots of other ideas that people will come up with, and we'll see.
Okay. If there's no other new business, I think we're adjourned. We've reached the end of the agenda. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks everybody for coming, and I'll try to get this up on the YouTube channel as soon as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Did you
When's
want-
our next meeting, Bob?
What's that, Betty?
Do we know when our next meeting is?
Our next meeting will be September 20th.
Thanks.
It's the third Monday of every month. Unless we need another one for some reason.
Thank you, Betty.
Okay. Goodbye, all.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, God.